The room falls quiet for just a moment. Someone makes an awkward comment. A few people laugh. Others quickly move on. But one person notices something everyone else misses. They catch the hesitation before the joke, the forced smile across the table, and the brief glance two coworkers exchange before looking away. They don't interrupt or point it out. They simply observe. Most people assume quiet observers are shy or disconnected. Psychology suggests something very different. Sometimes the people who speak the least are processing the most. While everyone else is focused on the conversation, they're quietly collecting details that reveal a much bigger picture. So why do some people seem to notice everything? Why do they remember expressions, tiny changes in behavior, and feelings that others never even realized were there? Psychologists have noticed this pattern for decades. Some people naturally pay attention to subtle signals instead of obvious ones. They notice changes in tone, body language, timing, and emotion almost automatically. The surprising part is that this ability often isn't something they chose. It develops through experience, emotional awareness, and a brain that constantly searches for patterns.
Join us.
If these ideas resonate with you, consider subscribing. This channel explores the hidden psychology behind everyday human behavior, and there's always more to discover. The first reason observant people notice so much is that they listen with their eyes as much as their ears. Imagine meeting someone who confidently says everything is going well. Their words sound convincing, but they keep avoiding eye contact, tapping their fingers and taking deep breaths. Most people remember what was said. The observer remembers how it was said. Our bodies often reveal emotions before our words do. A tiny pause, a tightened jaw, or a nervous laugh can communicate far more than a carefully chosen sentence. Observant people naturally notice these small inconsistencies, allowing them to understand situations that others often misunderstand. But this ability comes with a hidden cost. Think about walking through a crowded shopping mall. Most people focus on where they're going. An observant person notices the exhausted cashier trying to stay cheerful, the child nervously searching for a parent, and the couple pretending everything is fine while avoiding each other's eyes. Their mind isn't judging anyone, it's simply absorbing everything around them. Because their brain is constantly processing information, they often feel mentally exhausted after social events. They aren't antisocial. Their attention is simply working overtime. If you've ever wondered why you feel drained after spending time around large groups, it may not be because you dislike people. It may be because your mind never stops observing them. Observation also helps people recognize patterns before everyone else does. Picture a team meeting where everyone seems excited about a new project. The presentation looks impressive, but one employee quietly notices repeated delays, small disagreements, and promises that don't quite match reality. Months later, the project fails. Everyone says they never saw it coming. The observer isn't surprised because they weren't watching one event. They were noticing dozens of tiny clues that slowly formed a pattern. This is one reason observant people often trust their instincts. What looks like intuition is usually the result of hundreds of small details their brain has connected without them realizing it. Yet one of the biggest myths about observant people is that they enjoy analyzing everything. Many actually wish they could switch it off. Long after a conversation ends, their mind keeps replaying small moments. Why did someone suddenly change their tone? Why did a friend hesitate before answering a simple question? Why did that smile seem different today? Their brain searches for meaning long after everyone else has moved on. This doesn't always mean they're insecure. It often means their mind is naturally wired to look beneath the surface instead of accepting things at face value. The same habit changes the way they build relationships. Most people trust quickly when someone is charming or confident. Observant people usually wait. They pay attention to whether someone's actions consistently match their words. They notice how that person treats strangers, handles disappointment, and behaves when nobody important is watching. For them, trust isn't built by impressive first impressions. It's built by consistent behavior over time. That's why they may seem cautious at first, but once they trust someone, that trust often runs incredibly deep. While others are impressed by appearances, observers are paying attention to patterns. People often mistake this quiet observation for shyness. Imagine sitting in a group where everyone is talking over one another. Opinions are shared within seconds. People interrupt without realizing it. One person, however, says very little. From the outside, they seem disengaged. In reality, they're watching everything. They notice who dominates the conversation, who genuinely listens, who changes their opinion to fit the group, and who stays true to themselves. While others are busy speaking, the observer is gathering information that can only be found through silence. Ironically, the quietest person in the room often understands the group better than anyone else. Another hidden trait is that observant people often recognize emotions before they're spoken. Think about a close friend who insists they're fine. Most people accept the answer and continue the conversation. An observant person notices the slower speech, the lack of energy, the forced smile, and the unusual silence between sentences. Instead of asking, "Are you okay?" they ask, "Do you want to talk about what's been bothering you?" The question feels different because it reaches something the other person hasn't said out loud yet. This ability isn't mind reading, it's emotional awareness. Over time, observant people learn that feelings rarely appear all at once. They reveal themselves through tiny changes in behavior. But this gift has a downside. Constantly noticing other people's emotions can become emotionally exhausting. Many observant people absorb the atmosphere around them without realizing it. After spending time with someone who is anxious, angry, or heartbroken, they often leave feeling emotionally heavy themselves. If you've ever experienced that, it doesn't necessarily mean you're too sensitive. It may simply mean you're paying attention to emotional signals that most people overlook. Perhaps the most fascinating part of all is how observant people see the world. Most people experience life as separate moments. Observers experience it as connected patterns. A small change in someone's routine, a conversation that suddenly feels different, a smile that disappears a little too quickly, a habit that quietly changes over several weeks. Individually, these details mean very little. Together, they tell a story. That's why observant people often sense change before it becomes obvious. They aren't predicting the future. They're recognizing patterns that have been quietly developing all along. Of course, they aren't always right. Sometimes they overthink. Sometimes they worry about things that never happen. Sometimes they carry emotional weight that was never theirs to carry. But their ability also allows them to understand people on a deeper level. They notice when someone needs kindness before they ask for help. They recognize warning signs before problems grow. They appreciate sincerity in a world that often rewards appearances. If you've always felt like you notice things that everyone else misses, maybe there was never anything wrong with you. Maybe your mind has simply learned to pay attention in a different way. In a world filled with constant noise, observation has become a rare skill. While many people rush through conversations, observant people notice the pauses. While others hear words, they notice emotions. While others see events, they see patterns. And sometimes those quiet observations become the reason they understand both people and themselves more deeply than they ever expected. Sometimes the greatest changes don't begin with speaking louder or acting faster. They begin the moment you understand how your own mind works. Because once you start recognizing these hidden patterns, you begin seeing them everywhere. If this video gave you a new perspective, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Which of these psychological insights resonated with you the most? And if you'd like to explore more hidden patterns of human behavior, consider subscribing for future videos.